So, not so long ago, it wasn't popular to be a nerd amongst black people in such a way that you had to hide your enjoyment of particular things. Now, that's not to say that there aren't things that both nerds and non nerds can enjoy, but there are limits to how openly you could have expressed your love of things. I imagine being a huge fan of Star Trek at that time was probably even now Trekkies are probably the most maligned group of nerds outside of bronies, but that's a whole other tough topic for a whole other person who's not me. Um, but we've come to this point where being nerdy among black people is acceptable. It's embraced. But at the same time, it's been diluted. And I don't mean to say that black people aren't good at being nerds. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that there are things being attributed to being nerdy that aren't nerdy. I remember in college seeing people say that they were nerds. They were typing this. That's why I said seeing people and not hearing people. Saying that they were nerds because they studied real hard. And in my head, I'm thinking, no, you're a good student and you studied real hard. That's got nothing to do with nerds. Like in high school, I knew plenty of nerds who didn't graduate, who didn't do well in school, who just they weren't successful at things that weren't nerd related. So it always bugged me that the associating with being a nerd was also being smart, and that didn't think that made any sense. And I still don't. But we've kind of gotten to this point where black nerds are out in force. I see way more than I ever did before. It's weird going to a mall with a Doctor Who shirt and people going, "Where'd you get that shirt? I love that shirt," and that person being black, and it's mind blowing because I remember a time where I was picked on for those things, and it's like now it's like, oh wow, I'm not the weirdo with the shirt that no one gets. I wear a Doctor Who shirt, and I understand Doctor Who is a immensely popular show. I wore one to church one day, and the lady who does the sound, one of the people to sound, um, she was like, "Oh, Doctor Who, I love that show. Doesn't it still come on?" I was like, "Yeah." It was weird to experience that, but yeah, it's weird how something that wasn't once acceptable is now, I think we can honestly say, squarely in the mainstream. And I think, and to some levels, it's a struggle. In some levels, ugh, I don't know. There are just times where I cringe when I hear certain things being said. Uh, Way back when that god awful Green Lantern movie was being made, I saw a lot of people upset that the Green Lantern wasn't John Stewart. All these people were black. They, for the most part, did not have an understanding of the history of the character, of the fact that there's been God knows how many human Green Lanterns. The first being Alan Scott, then Hal Jordan, then Guy Gardner, the one that everyone hates, then Cal Rayner. No, wait, sorry, John Stewart, then Cal Rayner, and now Simon Baz, the only one who seems smart enough to like bring another weapon just in case the ring loses power, which seems to happen a lot. Um, but they weren't aware that that was a thing. So when you were explaining it to people, it's like, oh yeah, I know you saw Justice League. That no, 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 no. There's like other Green Lanterns, and they were just like, what? But the show was like, yeah. But the only reason he was in the show is because otherwise it'd be seven white people. Well, six white people and a green guy. Um, and I think that's interesting. Uh, but it's a struggle. I do appreciate that there are more people who are open to these ideas and open to these things. It's awesome to see people on Twitter debating comic book stuff and like throwing out facts. And it's always it's just I kind of wish I had experienced this before, because then I wouldn't have felt so isolated. Uh, and now it's just like, yeah, black nerds were everywhere. Doctor Who, Sherlock, Power Rangers. Don't judge me. It's bad television, but I like it. We all love that stuff, and it's good. I'm glad. It's a long time coming. I'm glad it's happened. Hopefully, it continues to happen, and then we can have like better black characters and more black characters in nerd culture, because that is an underlying issue. Is there aren't that many black people in science fiction. Star Wars has maybe, let's see, we're gonna count. I'm gonna attempt to. You have the Palace Guard or the Queen's Guard, whose name I can never remember in episode one. You have the co-pilot, who was black in episode two, but he was barely there. You have Mace Windu, who was in all three of the prequel trilogies. You had Lando, who was in episode 5 and 6, and you have Finn, who was in episode 7. That's five black people uh, through 7 movies. And if you notice, I did not name a single black woman. There are, as far as I am aware, the only woman of color who exists in Star Wars as a character and not in motion capture. I don't count motion capture, but no, we're just not. Because then you have the Count and Jar Jar, we're just not going to do that. Is Ling Bing, who exists in a deleted scene. And I guess Jimmy Smits, but like he's barely in the movies. So yeah, there needs to be more black characters. And that's it. I was aiming for a shorter video, but that didn't happen. It happens. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.